diversity in our workforce, and because of this commitment, it's no accident that NASA is one of the world's top scientific organizations. As a diverse workforce leads to a successful mission, we look forward to hearing about Dr. Kim's experiences and how we can apply them ourselves to our own work. As I close out this introduction, I'd like to take a moment to thank the Goddard Equal Opportunity Programs Office and the Goddard Asian American Pacific Islander Advisory Committee, and Jason, who's on, our sponsor for this event, and the Goddard Office of Communications for helping pull it off. Thanks, Michelle. Last but not least, I'd like to thank you, our employees. These past several months have really been tough. Please know that your resilience, flexibility, and commitment to the NASA mission has not gone unnoticed. We really, really appreciate that. We're working through this pandemic together, and it's only a matter of time before we emerge stronger than ever on the other side. At this point, I'd like to turn the microphone over to Steve Shee, NASA's Associate Administrator for the Office of Diversity and Equal Opportunity. Steve is the Principal Advisor to the NASA Administrators on all matters relating to diversity and inclusion and equal opportunity employment. Steve, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Dennis, thank you so much for that kind introduction and for your leadership and for hosting this wonderful program today. Thanks also to Veronica Hill and her staff in the Goddard EEO office, as well as to the Goddard Asian Pacific American Advisory Committee for sponsoring today's event and sharing it across NASA. I'm absolutely thrilled to join you today in celebrating the 2020 Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. This commemoration provides us an opportunity to honor Americans from more than 56 ethnic groups, speaking over 300 languages, who trace our ancestry to a multitude of countries and islands, including in Asia, Hawaii, and the Pacific Island territories. During this special observance, we recognize the historic contributions made by AAPIs to advance our nation's progress and success. Now, the month of May was chosen to observe AAPIs for a number of reasons, including to commemorate the first Japanese who came to this country in May of 1843, and to mark the May 1869 completion of the Transcontinental Railroad, which involved the labor of many Chinese immigrants. The AAPI Heritage Month special observance originated in Congress in June 1977, when Representatives Frank Horton of New York and Norman Mineta of California introduced a House resolution calling upon the President to proclaim the first 10 days of May as Asian Pacific Heritage Week. The following month, Senators Daniel Inouye and Spark Matsunaga introduced a similar bill in the Senate. Both the House and the Senate bills passed. On October 5th, 1978, President Jimmy Carter signed a joint resolution designating an annual week-long celebration. And then in 1990, President George H.W. Bush issued a presidential proclamation expanding the celebration into a month-long commemoration. Finally, in 1992, Congress passed a bill permanently designating May of each year as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. Throughout our nation's history, AAPIs have made great contributions to our country by proudly serving in our military and accomplishing key milestones in a multitude of areas, including government, business, academia, science, technology, medicine, arts, and sports. Numbering over 20 million individuals, the AAPI community is the fastest growing group in our country and is made up of culturally and linguistically diverse people. The diversity of AAPIs and the value of diversity in general to the excellence of our nation is reflected in the following theme for this year's commemorative celebration: Unite our nation by powering equality. Now, this theme aligns with the NASA Unity campaign, in which we are taking two approaches: focusing on our mission for a higher and common purpose, and connecting with each other to work well as a team and to take care of each other, all so we can enable NASA to achieve the greatest successes. The theme further speaks broadly across the entire United States to the importance of bringing together AAPIs and all Americans to promote equal opportunity, so all people in our country may fully contribute to the success and excellence of our exceptional nation. Now, some of the biggest patriots and heroes we particularly honor and celebrate this year include our frontline medical and health providers, our military service members, and our public servants, all who protect us, take care of us, and continue their work to explore and make discoveries to advance the human condition. So I'm tremendously pleased to introduce to you our keynote speaker today, who represents each of these fields as a military service member, a combat veteran, a medical doctor, and a NASA astronaut. We are fortunate to have with us today Dr. Jonny Kim, a United States Navy SEAL who has completed more than 100 combat operations and is the recipient of the Silver Star and Bronze Star medals. Dr. Kim remains on active duty as a Navy lieutenant. Previously, Dr. Kim earned a degree in mathematics at the University of San Diego and a doctorate of medicine at Harvard Medical School. Upon graduation from medical school, Dr. Kim served a medical internship with Harvard-affiliated emergency medicine residency and later worked as a resident physician in emergency medicine at Massachusetts General Hospital and Brigham and Women's Hospital. Dr. Kim is a member of NASA's 2017 astronaut candidate class. He has completed the initial astronaut candidate training and is now eligible for mission assignment. Clearly, Dr. Kim is not an underachiever, and he is the son that my tiger mom always wanted all along. NASA colleagues, I proudly present to you Dr. Jonny.
Thank you for the immensely warm and kind introduction. Very kind words and very undeserving. First, I just want to say thank you to Director Andrew Sick and Mr. Shi for the very kind welcome and having me here. I also want to thank the Goddard Communications and Equal Opportunity and Diversity Office for doing all the work required to make this happen. You know, we're all here to honor the rich heritage and contributions Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders have had in building this country, brick by brick. There have been generations of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders that have contributed to industry, law, medicine, space, generations who have served in uniform to defend this country and given the ultimate sacrifice. Generations that have served a country that has welcomed the contributions of all, regardless of the color of their skin or their beliefs. It's an honor for me to be here today to talk about my path, about the story of immigration, the struggles of identity, and how diversity led me to where I am today, and the powerful role it plays in today's society. And my story is just a single brick of the foundation that all immigrants, not just Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, have laid down to create a strong country we have today. I'm a first-generation Korean American, born and raised in Los Angeles. My parents were South Korean immigrants. My father, like a lot of South Korean immigrants, owned a liquor store, which he worked at 6 days a week. Growing up in the Asian American epicenter that is Los Angeles, I thought I knew what being Asian American was all about. But when I think about what it means to be Asian American, I have a hard time capturing that in a single sentence. Sure, I think of tradition, the holidays, the culture, and of course, the food. But one of the strongest thoughts that come to my mind when I think of my heritage is the sacrifices and struggles my parents and grandparents as immigrants went through so that I could be here today. My mother is a woman of great resilience. She had a hard life raising my brother and I in a tough environment. She left a lot behind in Korea to start over in America so that her future children could have a better life and embrace the American dream. A story that I'm sure many immigrants and their children are familiar with. This American dream, the idea that equality of opportunity is available to everyone, that the greatest of ambitions and goals are achievable to those willing to work hard for them. And my grandfather was a stoic man of great strength and few words. I think much being the result of the struggles he lived through his life in South Korea, especially after the Korean War. I have a lot of stories of how my grandfather's humility and my mother's strength shaped me. I'll share just one funny one. Long ago, a particular naive version of myself, I was struggling through a math problem as a young kid, and my grandfather peered over my shoulder to try to help me. And I ignorantly said, "Hadabuji," which is grandfather in Korean. "This is American homework." And my grandfather's humble response was just a smile. My grandfather never boasted about his accolades, and my mother never complained about her hardships. Through example, they taught me about sacrifice, hardship, respect, humility, discipline, and tolerance. They instilled respect, respecting people regardless of their socioeconomic status or the color of their skin or what transgressions they've done in the past. They instilled honor, honoring our way of life, our country, our family, our elders, our cultures and traditions. They taught me to be trustworthy in everything I do and to have the courage to stand up for my values. These are things that I learned from my mother and grandfather, from my Asian American heritage, and assimilated into my American identity. I wish I could say that my feelings towards my Asian American heritage, my identity, were always strong. But to be frank, there was a period of time in my life where I did not have a clear identity. I felt stuck between two worlds, and I struggled with low confidence about who I was or where I came from. It's a story that's not unique to Asian Americans. It's a story that all people, regardless of where they came from, can identify with. There was a period of time as a child I did not feel accepted by either the Asian or American cultures. I have uncomfortable memories of shamefully trying to hide the Korean food my mom had packed me for lunch so that no one at school would see it, or being made fun of because of the shape of my eyes, or not being accepted by my Korean peers because I didn't speak Korean well enough. These are stories that I think a lot of people would identify with, regardless of where you or your parents came from. It was actually this lack of identity that fueled my desire to become a part of something bigger than myself. So after I graduated high school, I had this naive idea that I would find the answer to all of life's problems if I became a Navy SEAL. So I did. And I'll tell you, I did not find all the answers to my life, but I did find some. The military is unique in that it brings together men and women from all races, from all walks of life to fulfill a common goal, to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. From that day, I raised my right hand and made that solemn oath. I had the honor of serving alongside some of the greatest men and women of our time. Serving my country taught me what it meant to be an American. Support freedom and democracy and fight for what you believe in. Being Asian American has helped me to celebrate diversity and appreciate the differences that make each of us unique. It's the reason I believe why America is so successful, because the diversity that is America breeds innovation, determination, and drives the American spirit. And to me, diversity highlights the human condition and that we are all equal. When we look down on Earth from space, we don't see national boundaries. We just see that we're all from the same planet. So when I think about my Asian American heritage, I think of the food, the cultures, the struggles. Most importantly, I think of the values that my mother and grandfather instilled in me. Those same values of honor, courage, commitment, respect, sacrifice, those are the same values that are celebrated in the military, the same values I learned as a Navy SEAL, and those are the same values we celebrate here at NASA. These values form the foundation and motivate me to make my contribution to this world. In the war, I lost a lot of good friends, and I made a promise to them that I would do my best to live a worthy life and to leave a positive mark in their honor. Service and support of freedom and democracy and fighting for what I believe in became my identity. And the foundation for all of this came from my heritage and from the values my grandfather and mother taught me. And this story of heritage, equality, American identity, it's not my story. It's a story that belongs to all of us. And that's what we do here at NASA. the ability of NASA to inspire and instill hope, to unite people across borders, across generations, and across political differences, to unite our nation, our world, is so important, especially at a time like this. When we return to the moon in 2024 under Artemis, we will do so in a way that reflects the world today, with government, industry, and international partners in a global effort to build humanity's future. Our nation was, is, and will always be a nation of diversity. Our strong global leadership was built by the contributions of many, shaped by the diversity of opinions, and defined by the rich heritage of our immigrants. And while this month we celebrate the rich contributions of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, let's not forget to celebrate the rich diversity of all groups that make us American. So if I could send a message to my 10-year-old self, or to anyone out there who identifies with this story of struggle and adversity, I want to tell them that our identity is not determined by parameters. Our hopes and dreams can't be boxed into a stereotype. Our identity is not found, it's created. And it's a beautiful blend of our immigrant and American roots. So I think it's very important for us to remember our heritage, the sacrifices of those before us, celebrate our diversity, and create our own mark in this world for the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kim. So much of what you shared resonated with me personally, and I'd like to thank you not only for your vulnerability, but also your transparency. We have several questions for you, so we're going to transition to the Q&A portion of our engagement today. The first question is, did you know from a young age that you wanted to be a SEAL, a doctor, an astronaut? How and when did you find out?
You know, that's a great question. My life, I have really just taken my life one step at a time. And I think it's a great way to live, is to have a singular goal, a singular focus, and to work towards that goal. And not that there's anything wrong with having far out goals, but I believe that you should be completely all in, put all your chips in the stack when you have a singular goal. And, you know, this is I can go into great detail of how I came to these decisions, but I was a really low confident kid growing up, and I didn't have a lot of dreams. You know, I had the Apollo 11 crew above my bed, but I never once thought that I could, as a first generation American and growing up in my household, would ever be capable of becoming an astronaut or a Navy SEAL or a doctor. You know, I felt lost for a lot of my childhood. And only in high school did I learn of the SEAL teams, and I became almost obsessed with just that idea of becoming a part of something bigger than myself. So that's when I first devoted my life to really try and have a single goal and be a SEAL. And it was from those experiences, from being a SEAL and serving overseas, from wartime experiences, that inspired me to take my need, my intrinsic desire to serve, in a different purpose, which was medicine. And even then, I never thought about being an astronaut. And it was really only about 6 months before the applications came out that I had this idea of this platform to be able to explore the far reaches of space, to go beyond what we think is impossible, to redefine that, all while having a platform to inspire our next generation. And I couldn't think of a better, more honorable way to serve, to make deep contributions, lasting contributions to humanity, to our society. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, everything that went on that led me to those decisions. But the unifying thread in all of that was service. It was wanting to do something to serve and be a part of something bigger than myself.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Speaking of goals and aspirations, this next question is, do you have any future aspirations? The questioner goes on to say, as an early career professional, I felt lost after achieving big goals like college and getting a job. Any advice?
Oh, wow. You know, it's a great question. I feel so many people of our generation, it's a hard question to answer. And I will say that it requires a level. So to answer the first part of that, I don't have any future goals, with one exception. I've made a promise early on, as I kind of hinted at, that I made a promise to some of my friends that I would spend the rest of my life serving. Now, whether that is serving in medicine or as an astronaut or charitable efforts, I don't know what my next road in life will be, but I do know that it will be guided by my intrinsic desire to serve. And I think that's important, that you have guiding principles in your life that are not specific for any particular field. You know, the desire to serve, if that is something that you wish to do, that can take many forms. And I think that's what people need to do, is that they need to have an honest, intrinsic look into what drives them. What do they want in this short, beautiful period we have on Earth that we call life? And I don't think anyone can answer that question but yourself. So it requires a transparent view of what you want to do, how to do that, and hopefully that will show you the light of where your next step should be.
Absolutely, so true. Those guiding principles are definitely something that you have to take some time to figure out so that you can navigate best. The second question: I'm an early-ish career engineer with a desire to apply to medical school in the next several years. Can you talk about what your medical journey was? Was it worth it? And also, thank you for being such an inspiration to all of the Asian Americans.
It was worth it, but I think medicine is a very rewarding field. And like a lot of rewarding fields, it takes a lot of work. As an engineer, I'd have to say you have a leg up. And although I wish, if I had infinite amount of time, I wish I could have studied engineering in undergrad, I chose to study math, which is similar to that, in that you'll have a leg up as an engineer if you decide to go to medical school, because you've already built the tools to think logically through problems and to approach things not just from the box or the constraints you're given, but to think of outside the box solution. Just realize that there's so much work involved, but for me it was worth it, and I just wanted to help people. And medicine is certainly an occupation where you get to do that. And during these uncertain times, these challenging times that we're going through right now, you get to see how that service and that passion to help people on the first responder, on the medical front, has really had a positive impact on our community and our fellow brothers and sisters. So I would say absolutely go for it. Do the research required to get there, to take those steps. But I would say it was very fulfilling for me, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
Excellent. Key takeaway: it's worth it. So this next question: what are your thoughts of Asian Americans being viewed as the model minority?
Oh, okay. This is a tough question. It's a good question. It's a good question. This is, how much time do I have? So I'd say that, this extends to all actions that we as humans do, is that the intent of our actions is not just what the effect is of our actions, but is the intent. Like, what are we trying to do? And my personal view, I want to make that disclaimer, this is my personal view of the word model minority. What it conjures up for me is a tool that isn't always used for the best of intentions, and could have a lot of hidden and unintended consequences. And what I mean by that is, certainly there's disparities in society, in life, globally, domestically, right? I mean, we have to, I think, recognize that there are disparities do exist. And I think when you try to define a population of people by being a model minority, however you define that, I think you have the potential to gloss over differences that make us all unique. And I don't think any population of people can be defined or constrained within parameters, even if those are good parameters. It can gloss over and the disparities that are real and that affect our communities. So I think it can be used as a wedge, so to speak, in some of the efforts we try and do to make our communities, make our world a diverse and equal playing field for all, much like the ideals of our American forefathers when they established this great country, equality for all. So those are my off-the-cuff thoughts for that question.
Very great thoughts. Thought-provoking. Had me thinking about that question as well. So thank you for that. So we're going to try to get it a little light. That was deep. So this question, the person starts off by saying, thank you for your service. And the question is, if you are allowed to bring a few of your own personal favorite Asian snacks and or food items on your first space mission, what would those be?
Oh, gosh, there's so many. Something green tea based. You know, the green tea Pocky sticks that you can only get in Asian stores when I was a kid, but now I see them at Walmart. So that's a big plus. They're usually chocolate covered. I don't see the green tea covered ones. I've only been able to find them in Japan. But I'd bring a whole carton of those up. And I would bring up, maybe it's not a snack, but I like to eat it as a snack. It's just dried seaweed. You can get them, I now get them at Costco, or I can get them at the store. So they're a lot more prevalent now than they used to be. I think those are the things that I would bring up with me.
All right, cool. I like roasted seaweed. I haven't tasted the other snack. I'll have to try that one out, but I do like the roasted seaweed for sure. Okay, so moving along, the next question is, can you talk about your role models and mentors that help you get to where you are today?
Yeah, I could spend probably the rest of our time talking about role models that I've had. And I think just the important message is, you know, role models can be anyone. They're not just parents or siblings, family members. They can be church members. They can be coaches, professional mentors, your bosses, you know, and I've had mentors throughout every stage of my life. And it was really instrumental for my development in a lot of ways. And what I learned is that, you know, there's no such thing as a perfect mentor, a perfect human ever. But we can always take the best of what we can from our mentors. And that's what I think is important, is that you take the gems, little nuggets that you can learn from your mentors and incorporate that into your own identity. I certainly wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the vast amount of mentors I've had in all stages of my life, not just in the military, but also in medicine and at NASA. And it certainly encouraged you, because one day you will be on the other end where you have the opportunity to give that gift, that you spend the time to mentor the next generation, because mentorship is perhaps one of the greatest gifts we can give each other, because it helps us become the best version of ourselves.
Absolutely, I agree. Even reverse mentoring, where you're focused on someone who may be at a junior level or younger than you. There's so much that we can learn from each other.
Absolutely, you're right. And mentorship is not defined by age whatsoever. That's a great point.
Yeah. All right, next question. What has been the key to your successes in your career? You talked about a lot of those in your presentation and through some of your answers, but what would you say has been the key to your successes in your career?
You know what? I think living by a set of guiding principles has always helped me. And there's quite a bit, but just off the top of my head is really having a good attitude in everything you approach things. And good attitude is such a very broad, principle. But what does that mean? That means be kind to each other, be humble, right? Always have humility. And I think that's one of the most important traits is that you never carry an ego and you're humble enough to always learn. Because the moment you think you have mastered something or you're an expert, you've capped your ability to learn and grow. Working hard, there's no replacement for working hard. And I value a solid work ethic over than natural talent. And I can tell you that I'm not smarter or stronger or faster than any average person. It's just a desire to work hard that can really, I think, make up for any talent lack of. So I think work hard and having a good attitude are really the two most important ingredients.
We are kindred spirits, Dr. Kim. I resonate completely with those guiding principles. My top two is always to assume positive intent and to give the benefit of the doubt.
Good words.
So the next question is, what can NASA do to encourage more people, including minorities, to follow in your footsteps?
What can we do? I think we're doing, well, maybe I'm biased because I work here, but I think we're doing a great job. I think we celebrate and we showcase the rich diversity that makes us so powerful here at NASA. I think it's really important to have role models that look like yourself, right? And especially as we go back to the moon in 2024 under Artemis, it reflects the changes, the world that it is today. And while we went to the moon 50 years ago and it was an amazing accomplishment, we're going to go back and we're going to go stay. And bringing the first woman to land on the moon is going to be a momentous occasion and really just show everyone, show the next generation, show our kids that everything is possible if you put your mind to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this next question, I'm really interested in hearing your response as an avid book reader. It says, I'm sure there are many resources that have helped you on your professional journey. Are there any books you recommend that have helped you along the way?
Oh, wow. I have an embarrassing confession. I love to read. I read a lot of technical articles and books. So the last time I read a nonfiction book, it's probably been a while. I'd say there was one book that stuck out with me as a kid, and I'd have to reread it because I think, books have a different impact on us depending on what stage of life we're in. I read a book as a young kid. It was called About Face and it was written by Colonel Hackworth. And it's a military book, so I don't think it would appeal to everyone, but it was the kind of book that I needed at the time, which was structure and discipline. And it taught me how attitude can be the most important human element we bring to adversity. And the story is about a company of soldiers in Vietnam and their experiences.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Next question. How did you manage the training to become a SEAL, a doctor, and an astronaut without losing your mind? Did you have any free time or sleep? Any good time management tips to share?
Well, I want to say that to think that all of those paths were linear without any deviations, detours, stumbles would not be accurate. I have failed along the way many times. And I would say is that being able to focus on what you're doing and why you're doing it is so important, not losing sight of that focus. For me, and I had all those goals were just one at a time. And I don't know if I could have handled trying to do all three at the same time. For me, trying to be a SEAL, it was not quitting and not ringing that. There's a bell in training that you have to, in order to quit, you have to ring it. And every time I came to a situation that was hard, that was painful, that was had a lot of suffering, I would remember why I was there and think about the end goal, the prize. And I think everyone has the same goals, right? But sometimes we forget along the way why we're doing what we're doing. So it's important to have a strong support structure, to have allies, friends, family that support you along your journey, to help remind you what you're doing, why you're doing it, because you're going to stumble, you're going to fail along the way. But it's not about how many times you fail or how badly you fail. The most important thing is that you get back up. It's a really cliche thing to say, but it is so important. And it's so important to realize that the most successful people in this world have failed many, many times.
So, so true. We have to manage those expectations and give ourselves grace. It's so important to do that. All right. So this next question, what's one piece of advice the older you would give the younger you at a challenging time of your life?
That's a good one. This can get into a deep conversation again, it's a deep answer as well. But I would say, I'd tell my younger self that, that as I'm talking to myself, that everyone is deserving of love and that hard times come and that they do pass. But understanding that all worthwhile goals are very, very difficult to achieve. I think those are the words I would tell to a younger version of myself that was going through a hard time.
Yeah, that one struck me at my core. Good advice. All right, time to lighten it up again. So this is from the questioner's 7-year-old Korean American niece. Will you have dessert in space? Is there ice cream you can take with you?
Yes, absolutely. There is definitely dessert in space. In fact, all astronauts get to choose some select items that they want to bring up, and they get care packages. Similar to how a lot of our service members will get care packages overseas, astronauts always get care packages. Whenever you see a space vehicle go up, there's a good chance that there is some type of care package on it. Ice cream. You can bring ice cream, but it usually comes up in a vehicle that comes up and it needs to be eaten relatively quickly because there's just not too many places on the space station where you can store ice cream.
All right.
So maybe the next question is, what would I bring up? Cookies and cream is a particular favorite of mine.
Cookies and cream. Butter pecan for me. All right. So what are some of the challenges of a first aid situation in 0G? How did you train for such a situation?
Oh, okay. That's an interesting question. The first aid situation?
Yeah,
okay.
First aid situation.
So I think that first requires an examination of the environment that space offers. So, space is a microgravity environment in a pressurized vessel, right? That is in the depths of space. So there's a lot of things that could go wrong. I think certainly probably maybe some of the more minor first aid things, you're floating around. So certainly you can bump your head or bump a limb against something, a sharp object as you're going along. I think NASA, we do a good job of keeping out a close eye on some of those safety things. So perhaps that doesn't really happen too often. That's always a possibility. So it can go from things as simple as a slight bruise or bump to something that's pretty extreme. And of course you could have, a depressurization event or the EVA or the spacewalks that we do. is one of the most high-risk things that we do in microgravity. And that's because when you go outside the confines of the space station, you're in space, and the only thing saving you between from space is your life support system in your spacesuit. So that is in itself a space vehicle. It's just like an individual space vehicle. And the way it keeps you alive is it takes, it protects you from radiation, protects you from heat, from cold. It provides oxygen, and it provides a pressurized environment. So you can have little things that happen, whereas you can have situations where a lot of bad things can happen. But fortunately, we have a lot of procedures in place, as well as medical procedures and medical supplies to be able to address any of those possibilities.
Awesome. Thank you. This person starts off by thanking you for your service, and then they go on to say, what advice would you give to a new NASA employee or new NASA employees about building resilience and confidence?
It's a good question. So resilience. Let's start with the first one. This, it's easier said than done. I realize this, but being resilient, being tough, mentally tough, physically tough, whatever you want to call it, it's a choice. It is a conscious, intentional choice. So how do you do that? I think it requires, there's no secret. I don't think there's anything that I can say in the span of a few minutes that can completely change your viewpoint, your perspective on mental toughness, resilience, other than saying that it's hard. Being resilient is a hard choice, but it's something that you make now, every single day, every single minute, and let that guide your actions. I hope that was more helpful than it sounds coming out of my mouth. And the second part is building
the confidence. Yeah, how to build confidence, resilience, and confidence.
I think confidence is also something that is a choice, but I think being vulnerable is an aspect of being confident, is growing, and that's not something people are comfortable with doing. It's certainly not something that I haven't always been comfortable doing, and I continually, everyone struggles being vulnerable. It's a very human thing to have that struggle, but it is very human to be vulnerable and realize that, being resilient, being confident, those are great things, but it's also important to be human, right? And being human means that you're not going to always be confident or resilient, but that's why we have the support structures in place. We have our friends, our families, to pick us up when we fall.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so what are some exciting and challenging areas to you regarding future human spaceflight?
There's quite a bit. I mean, you can. There's engineering challenges, radiation challenges. There's more health and medical challenges of going into deep space for long periods of time. But they all have a common theme. They are problems that we may not yet have solutions for, but we have the people. The most important resource that we have here at NASA is people. And going to the theme of today's talk, diversity, embracing that's what makes us so unique and so special at tackling these very difficult problems, is that we have a slew of engineers, of technicians, scientists from different backgrounds to think of a problem from many angles. And that's what it's going to take to solve all of the problems that exist and all the problems that will come to fruition in the future. It's going to be hard, But if there's any agency, any group on Earth that's going to be able to accomplish what we wish to accomplish, going back to the moon, is developing sustainable presence there to go even beyond, it's going to be NASA.
That's right. Go NASA. So I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions. So I'll go with, how do you balance your family and personal life with your career?
It is, so this is me being vulnerable here. It is, It is hard. It is hard to do. It's a continuous struggle. And, you know, I guess it wouldn't be called life if it wasn't a continuous struggle. I try and remind myself of what the purpose of life is, right? It is to develop the relationships, the people that are meaningful to us, to experience that love, and just slow down every once in a while and recognize how amazing, how blessed we are at times to have some of these opportunities. So to answer that question, I have an amazing wife and kids that are always there to continually remind me of the beautiful things in life, and help me step away from work. And trying to keep those two different compartments separate, I think, is always a challenge. It always needs to be worked on, and it's really important. So that's a great question.
Yeah, I agree. All right. So our last question, let me see. There's so many good ones to choose from. Please discuss any challenges you may have experienced during astronaut training. How did you approach those challenges? So maybe if you could just give us one and how you approached it.
Oh, okay, yeah, I was just trying to think. There's so many of them. I think, okay, well, this one's, I guess, kind of, I particularly have a hard time. I still have a hard time learning Russian, speaking Russian. And that is, let's see, you know, goes to what I said earlier, is hard work and determination, and working hard and embracing different learning styles was difficult for me, and that's a challenge that I had. Probably another, I guess, maybe more challenge that other people can relate to is doing the various challenging obstacles that we have to do, which is operate in the ISS or work in the neutral buoyancy lab in our spacesuits with an amazing team, you know, and being able to integrate yourself, bringing all of the lessons learned you've had in your life thus far to tackle these different challenges has been very important in my own development, in learning how to work with a new team.
Great. I'm gonna sneak one more in. We got a little bit more time, so I'm gonna get another question in. What advice do you have for a 13-year-old aspiring to be a Navy SEAL?
I would just, you know, I'd say, one, enjoy being a kid. You know, being 13, you have plenty of time, but also understand, try, like, you know, have a conversation with yourself, with other people. Like, why do you want to do that? Make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. And it's, I'd say that if you're serious about it, scour the internet. There's plenty of resources online for the proper mental and physical preparation steps you can go through. And I just want to tell you, it's going to be a hard road, but if it's something you're absolutely interested in doing, go for it. You will, if you make it through, you'll grow. You will learn that there isn't anything in life you can't do with hard work and the right attitude.
So, so true. All right, seriously, this is the last question. What is the best piece of advice someone has ever gave you?
Oh, wow. Best piece of advice. Okay, I want to give a good answer. Let me just have a few seconds to think about that.
Yeah, take your time.
Oh, best piece of advice. I think I know. Yeah, I think the best piece of advice I learned, and I learned this, I have my chief to thank from the military for this. I learned this early on as a new guy, is to never think you're better than anyone else, or never to think you're too good to do a job. I think that's very important in maintaining our humility and also maintaining that respect for all people, regardless of where they sit on the socioeconomic ladder or where they came from or their beliefs. And just realizing that you're just another human in this world, and that there's plenty of good, qualified, amazing people on Earth. So never think you're better or too good to do anything.
Oh, wow. Those were powerful words for sure. It's so true. We all have something to offer, and we should be looked at as such. Dr. Kim, thank you so much for spending this time with us today. This was a definite treat, not only for me, but I'm sure for everyone else who is joining us in this presentation. I just want to thank you so much for being with us as we celebrate